The mayhem in Bangladesh continues even as the interim government has taken charge. Protests still rage nearly a week after Sheikh Hasina's ouster, and this time against the judiciary in the country. Chief Justice of Bangladesh, Obaidul Hassan, has also resigned. His resignation follows massive demonstrations by students who completely surrounded the Supreme Court. The students were unhappy with a full court meeting called by Hassan without consulting the interim government. The protesters alleged that judges are part of a conspiracy. Well, as tensions mount, the scheduled meeting was abruptly called off, but the protesters were undeterred and besieged the Supreme Court. The unrest escalated rapidly and Hassan was given a 1-hour ultimatum to step down. Following this, he agreed to resign in principle. Appointed to helm the Supreme Court of Bangladesh last year, Hassan is seen as a loyalist to, of course, Sheikh Hasina. His resignation marks the removal of another powerful face in the previous regime now. With this, we ask, are we seeing a total breakdown of the Bangladesh state or not? And what does this mean for India? What does this mean for the Hindus living in Bangladesh? Ambassador Achal Malhotra, former diplomat, joins us on the show. Major General G.G. Dwivedi, defense expert, also joins us on the program. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, also with us on the show. Professor Nalapat, I'll begin with you, sir. So what do you make of this chaos that we are seeing in Bangladesh? Of course, the number one worry for us is that the Hindus in Bangladesh continue to be targeted, temples continue to be vandalized. Social media is replete with videos of how groups of people are targeting not only minorities but also other Muslim minorities in the country of Bangladesh. The army has not done much. The police has not done much. In fact, they seem to be silent spectators in what's ensuing, in this anarchy that is ensuing in Bangladesh. What do you make of what's happening in Bangladesh, and what can India do at this point in time? A lot of lip service has already been paid by ministers and diplomats, but the fact of the matter is that this is a danger, this is a peril, Professor Nalapat, that could spill over in more ways than one.
Frankly, Vineet, this is a failure on the part of Muhammad Yunus. I had some faith in him. Frankly, I've still got faith in him, and I expect him to ensure that before elections are declared, the system will be cleansed of corrupt elements, and certainly radical elements will not be allowed to infiltrate the system. Secondly, that BNP and Awami League leadership elements have to be kept out because they have shown themselves to be more interested in money, and in the BNP case, money combined with extremism, and the Awami League case, they have tolerated extremism for little more than the entire third term of Sheikh Hasina, because she tried to make amends with extremists. You can't fight, you can't, change the spots of a leopard. And Sheikh Hasina forgot that and tried to cultivate the very forces who then grew and finally managed to lead the movement, which ultimately led to her for downfall. If the Supreme Court Chief Justice is a loyalist of Sheikh Hasina, there is no question it's a clear breach of the separation of the executive and the judiciary. The executive and the judiciary have got to be separate. And if that is the case, definitely there was a case for him to step down and resign, and for the chief advisor to the president to ensure that a neutral chief justice is appointed. That's number one. And the second point of the matter is, this is a blot on the name of Muhammad Yunus. The fact that the winner of so many awards is basically standing by without doing anything, without maybe asking the police to do anything or the military to do anything, while innocent people are being hanged, minorities are being targeted. It's been a shame on Bangladesh for about 7-8 years, frankly. and the minority population has sharply decreased there. And this is a shame on the name of Muhammad Yunus. I do hope he'll wake up, and if the military leadership refuses to budge, he needs to remove the leadership and ensure that there is a military that does not support extremism and that does not have politics. And a police for that matter. The fact that both these institutions are standing by is a huge stain on these institutions. And may I say, so long as this is happening, it means that democracy in Bangladesh is extinguished. And frankly, it has not come back with the chief advisor taking charge. I hope that it happens soon, because Bangladesh cannot bear any more turmoil. And if there's a fresh bout of extremism and the extremists continue to be there, then eventually Bangladesh will become a new terror hub, a new Afghanistan, and it's going to be a threat to the entire world beneath.
General Dwivedi, I completely concur with Professor Nalapat and what he said. We are on a precipice where Bangladesh perhaps could be turning into a country which really, forget about what's happened in the past, which really does not want to get along with India. Whatever we are seeing is driven by religion. Whatever we are seeing is being driven by jingoism and xenophobia. And obviously, this is not something that will bind the two countries, which have been bound with the spirit of democracy that, of course, a country like India abides by.
Well, Vineet, I think we need to understand the Bangladesh dynamics, this phenomena, because Bangladesh has a history of regime changes, of the coups, right from 1975. We have seen 4 major regime changes by force. And first was the assassination of Sheikh Mujib, then 1981, Ziaur came, then he came in 1975, he was again assassinated in 81, then Irshad came. Only in 1991, the democracy in some form was restored, and in the last 3 decades, the two Begums have shared power. 10 years were with Madam Zia, and 20 years were with Sheikh Hasina. Now, what we are seeing today is a phenomena of bloodless coup, and the army is calling the shots. The simple, I think, the mission is to absolutely obliterate Awami League and bring in the BNP and Jamatis, and we are seeing students being used as a tool. And I have seen these student demonstrations. In fact, I fought 71 war, and students are not the category of the people we are seeing now. I like to make 3-4 important points. First and foremost, I don't have much of hope or faith in Muhammad Yunus because he has been brought in by the army, and he is he is almost the puppet of the army, and he has to call the army tunes. Point number 1. You see the interim government composition. There is no representation from Awami League. The people who are hardliners, people who have supported the student protest are in the interim government. Number 3, very intriguing. Why is the army and the police forces are sitting quiet? Obviously, they are using the students as the front face to do the cleaning up. Otherwise, let me tell you, Army is a very important organization in Bangladesh. If they once say stop, I can tell you there will be not a shot fired. So therefore, Army is watching the whole show, and the student have a tacit, I think, go ahead or the green signal from the Army. And the way things are, 2 things are happening. One is the cleansing of the Awami League elements, and second is the minorities are being cleaned out, and this handiwork is largely the hardliners, the Jamatis, and the anti-social elements. Now coming to what India, I think India needs to put it very strongly that this Hindus extermination, atrocities will not be accepted. Point number 1. Second point is that those who want to come in, especially the Hindus and the minorities, should be allowed to come in because they are today at the mercy on the borders. Neither they can go back nor they can come in. And the third point is the architecture of Bangladesh is going to go under huge change. Pakistan is going to make deep inroads through Jamaat. Chinese already have a strong influence. They are going to further their strategic aims. America is also going to be in. There is going to be rivalry between America and China. And I think as far as India is concerned, we are going to have the maximum setback because all the good work done in last decade is going to be largely neutralized. Most of our projects which have been instituted may see dampening or the progress may have get hampered. And last point is that India needs to come out very strongly because wait and watch diplomacy is not going to work until we put ourselves very strongly that this sort of situation is not acceptable. I think the minority will continue to suffer and Bangladesh is going to see turmoil and the only stability will be once BNP and Jamaat come in, and that's what I think the whole chessboard has been set up. Vineet.
Right. Ambassador Malhotra, where do you think, Sheikh Hasina actually went wrong? She was perhaps one of the very few leaders from Bangladesh who was nice to India. She helped the country make more money. She was, fair to people of all religions, and she knew how to run her country. Where did you think she went wrong, and what kind of a precedent is this mob justice, setting for future generations in Bangladesh? That if anything goes wrong, if you disagree with the government, all you need to do is just come out and protest, kill the opposition and kill the people, negate the people, nullify the people who don't agree with your agenda, and overthrow the government.
Well, Vinit, first of all, I would say that this trend of mob, justice, this is we witnessed it in Bangladesh, but we not in the very recent past, we have also seen it in Sri Lanka, and in USA, the Capitol Hill episode is also fresh in our mind. So this is a trend which is dangerous, and I think everything should be done to check it. Your second question is about Sheikh Hasina and where did she go wrong? I think the mere fact that she ruled the country consequently for 15 years and now she had ensured her, another fourth term. So in these three consecutive terms, there has been a dilution of democracy, whether we agree or not. The institutions of democracy have suffered. The general perception is there. This is not the narrative of the United States of America. But, it happens that you try to get key positions in all departments, in all spheres of life filled by your own loyalists or people who are, sympathetic towards you. So this happens. Then the economy did very well under her, but up to a certain point. And thereafter, it has been on the slide. If you look at the data, which is, authentic data from World Bank and other sources, there's a massive unemployment, 30 million out of 117 million or so. The inflation is very high. Many other things are happening. So there's a pent-up anger. There were even, I would say that, I would presume that even the supporters of Awami League must have been feeling the pinch of, the foreign exchange dipping, and generally the situation of the economy was not good. Then she mishandled her decision to reserve a large percentage of seats in the jobs for Mukti Yodas. The second or third generation of the veterans who fought the war. And this was perceived as a tool to fill up key positions once again by the supporters of her party. So all this was exploited, and it must have been planned. And the protests maybe initially were not orchestrated. They were genuinely against this reservation. But once the Supreme Court had brought down the, from 32, I think 5 or 7%, there should have been calm down. But no, since the intention was to exploit this situation against Sheikh Hasina and her government, so these violent demonstrations continued, and then they led to a situation of no return. I think army was, in a way, did her a favor that for whatever little time they gave her to escape and leave the country. Otherwise, they could have conveniently looked the other side. Mob was already at her doorstep, and she would have been killed in a mob lynching. So everything, I think it was pre-planned. It was being already, the scheme of things, how it will go, that was already being planned for a considerable period of time. So this is, I think, where she went wrong. Now, of course, it's a big question. Where does Bangladesh go from here? And I think we should allow some time to dust to settle down.
All right. Mr. Prashanta Kumar Shil, international policy analyst, also joins us from Dhaka at this point in time. Mr. Prashanta Kumar, I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Mr. Prashanta Kumar is joining us from Dhaka. Mr. Prashanta Kumar, the worry in India at this point in time is we are not sure which way the Bangladesh government or the future government or even the interim government is going to shift. Is the chaos that we are seeing, the uncertainty that we are seeing as a result of this mob justice going to throw the country of Bangladesh into a deeper pit than it already is? And what does it do to the friendship that has been cultivated between Bangladesh and India in the last few years through Sheikh Hasina? What's going to happen to that? Is China going to take this opportunity and try to misuse the resources and the people of Bangladesh to its own advantage, which it has done to a number of countries, especially in the subcontinent?
Yes, that you can tell the right things actually. The very good relations, you see that in last 15 or 16 years from Sheikh Hasina's government to India, very good and very wonderful relations between India and Bangladesh. So the interim government, we see that the present time, that is very good influence in US this time, especially in the Biden's administration. There is very good relations. You know that Dr. Yunus is a very good relation. Is a friend with Hillary Clinton. You know that. So there's a very good relations and tie in USA. So people, the experts say that from Bangladesh, this kind of movement from the quota movement and student that kind of protesting movement. Experts say that there is some sort of the influence of USA. So I can think this is another happening for the India-Bangladesh relation because you know that the 1971 we can see in our freedom, especially in the independence. So independence that is good shelter from the Indian side. So we recall actually the Indians' achievement and support and everything from at that time. But the present term government, you know that the present term government is a very unexpected situation. They will come, they will reform. But what's the condition? What the dealing side from India and Bangladesh, the president? That is one kind of question. But the peoples in narrative in Bangladeshi people, they have some sort of they have a very narrative in their mind. They cannot during the 1980s after they have been growing up from the young people. They are growing up from the negativisms of Indian side. Actually, it's been very much unfortunate for the young generation because we know that people are peaceful from love to each other, the minorities, Hindus and the Muslims, all are in equal vessel. But they have been cherishing from Jamaati and the Islamic ideologicals put their mind from the anti-Indian activities. That's why some selective people, not the whole peoples of Bangladesh, some selective peoples, they can rise in their mind in very soft corner to put the anti-Indian activities. That's why some people, they think that India is the enemy for Bangladesh. Not like that. That is a geographical location attachment from Bangladesh and India. Very good connections, very good strategical location. So they're the neighboring countries, first neighboring countries. So if you do anything from India and Bangladesh, I can think there's a good attachment from the two countries.
All right.
Is that question?
Right, you're right. And Professor Nalapat, why would anybody in Bangladesh think that India is their enemy? And let's also talk about theocracies. If Bangladesh, is thrown into the pits of being a theocracy, without oil, what happens to countries who are theocracies and don't have resources to sell to the West? Look at Pakistan, look at Afghanistan, and a number of other countries which don't have these natural resources. What becomes of Bangladesh? And, it's important to understand what should India's position be, regardless of who's running Bangladesh at this point in time.
Well, let me say that, Wahhabis should be distinguished from Sunnis. And what has happened is the Wahhabis have taken over the movement. And Wahhabis have been anti-Shia for a completely long time. They have been anti-Hindu, anti-Christian for a very long time. And it's a stain on Muhammad Yunus again, that there is no Hindu inside the government. There is no real Shia influence inside the government. Both should be important components. But I'd like to say, essentially, that, what we need to do is ensure that the whole world is made awake of what is happening in Bangladesh. You remember back in 1970s, a lot of activity took place around the world, and people all over the world focused on the atrocities committed against minorities, against Shia by the Wahhabis in Bangladesh. And that created an international climate, although the top levels were still influenced by the Sino-Wahhabi alliance. The people at large were frankly very unhappy at the way things were in Bangladesh. So in my personal view, it is important for India to ensure that there is a consensus among India and other major democracies that extremists cannot be allowed to rule Bangladesh. And if Muhammad Yunus fails to root them out and extremists come to power and make it another Afghanistan, I'm sorry to say, Vinny, there is no alternative but to a second war of liberation. And with that, you have to involve the United States, you have to involve some other important countries, and there has to be this thing to rescue the Bangladeshi people from the clutches of Wahhabism. Because, when you talk about ruin of countries, wherever Wahhabis have ruled, they have ruined the country. You look at those parts of Syria Wahhabis have ruled. They have ruined it. They have ruined Syria. They have ruined Iraq. They have ruined Libya. They have ruined Afghanistan. And they're now ruining Pakistan. So that is very important. And the international community does not wake up. It's a very serious situation. And we may have to consider what to do. But what is very clear, India will not be able to tolerate an extremist regime on the other side of the border. It has already got an extremist regime on the west in Pakistan. It has got an unfriendly regime on the north in the case of China, with whom, by the way, Bangladesh tried to cultivate a lot of good relations, and all of those efforts have obviously gone to naught. The reality is that we cannot afford for our own security such a regime to take root. But initially, maybe for some months, we have to develop public opinion so that the public opinion is with us. And in the United States, if Joe Biden is still fixated on the Sino-Wahhabi lobby, well, then let's hope that the election brings about a difference and either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump understands the danger of extremists everywhere. So I think, quite frankly, that there is no alternative but intervention by the major democracies to ensure that the people of Bangladesh are protected from extremism and ruin, the same kind of ruin they are faced in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in all these Wahhabi-dominated countries. People of Bangladesh and the minorities. I mean, it's horrific what you're seeing about what's happening in the minorities, and it's terrifying that so far the major democracies don't seem to have basically done much to protest that and to prevent that. I'm quite surprised. There should be sanctions immediately on Bangladesh. No exports of textiles, no exports of anything until this kind of killing is stopped. You have to act now, Vineet, or it will be too late for the world because by that time, Bangladesh would have gone into complete meltdown. Vineet.
You're absolutely right. General Dwivedi, the situation is obviously far more grave, than the rest of the world besides India anticipates itself to be. And Professor Nalapat is absolutely right. For India, the stakes are very high. We can't be surrounded by unfriendly, antagonistic regimes on all sides. We also have, a porous border with Bangladesh. What should be done on an immediate basis to basically keep anything untoward from happening in Bangladesh, which directly affects us, from happening?
Absolutely, Vineet. I think stakes are very high for India because it directly concerns our national interest, our security interest, and our strategic interest. The point is, at this moment, two things are very clear. One is that Bangladesh is slipping into the quagmire of radical elements, and that the student movement has been hijacked. Pakistan is playing a very major role. ISI is right into it. Unfortunately, ironically, I am not able to understand as to why the Bangladesh army is just a bystander. Because I know for good reason, having spent good deal of time there, that Bangladesh army is feared by the public, respected as well. I don't know why the current chief, Zaman, is only waiting and watching. What India needs to do, I think, three very important things. First and foremost, I quite agree with Professor Nalapat. We need to make the international community aware as to what is going on the ground. Because geographic distance between the West and America may not be aware of what is going on. We are looking at right from across the fence. Second point is the Hindus who want to come in, please let them come in. Don't stop because they'll be murdered, raped. I think we then will be very repentful. And thirdly, India is a major power. I think we need to give a very clear message to those who are at the helm of affairs in Bangladesh that this will not be acceptable.
All right, sir.
India should be able to intervene. I mean, that's what the armed forces and the hard power is meant for. We need soft power and hard power go together.
Absolutely.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.